quick housekeeping. If anybody needs the restroom, if you go, feel free to go inside. It's down the hallway, the first right. It's the second right. They're actually both.
So have you looked at Zen Bitch Slap, the website, a little bit? No? Yes? You've heard of non-duality, the idea? All right. Recovery? Anyone recovery? A few people, yeah. All right. We're not going to talk about any of that. No. We're really going to be talking about nothing, but let me say, non-duality, can you hear me there? Non-duality, I'm going to give you some terminology that we use. So the basis, non-duality means not two. It doesn't mean one. It doesn't mean anything. It's negating something. That's all it is. Yeah? It's not saying not two and then the all-glorious one. It's just not two. Yeah? So in seeing not two, something occurs. Yeah? By looking for one, that reinforces the two. So when the two isn't seen to be non or not two, then the two-ness of us will look for the oneness. That's two. Yeah? So the way to get to this point is you don't go anywhere. All you do is negate what you're taking to be so now, or just entertain the possibility that you may not be a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, a thing. Yeah? That you may not be the doer, the thinker, the feeler, the haver, the loser of your life. It's all about seeing what you're not. Because the dilemma, and have you ever heard of Ramana Maharshi and Huang Po, a great old Zen master? If you read Ramana Maharshi's works, people wrote about his teachings, you'll see this point emphasized as the problem or the greatest mystery. And he puts it this way. He says there's a presupposing of a non-existent thing. Yeah. So this is non-existing. Yeah. I remember when I was 9 years old, my Uncle Fred died, and I liked him. He used to give me money at the relatives' parties behind his back, give me $1 or something. And my mother took me to the funeral, the wake, and she said, "Do you want to say goodbye to Uncle Fred?" I wasn't that keen about that, but I said, "All right." And she brought me up to the casket, and I looked in, and I saw what I was calling Uncle Fred. I saw the body, but I got a direct hit that ain't Uncle Fred. Yeah, because the animation wasn't there. And in hindsight, I realized I thought the body was Uncle Fred because I was living under the idea that I was the body. Yeah. So when I saw the body of Uncle Fred without the animating principle, it was super clear that ain't Uncle Fred. That's exactly the whole point. Yeah. So the presupposing of a non-existent thing. Yeah. And then in that presupposing of a non-existent thing that wants to get salvation for the non-existent thing. You see? So there's a presupposing of a non-existent thing, and now suddenly there's a need or a drive to get salvation for the non-existent thing. But would there be any necessary or any need to have salvation from a non-existent thing? It's non-existent. In other words, you're already saved from the non-existent thing. You see? So we're attempting to get something that's already so and get it for something that isn't so. That's the mistake. So he says, all right, there's a presupposing of a non-existent thing that wants to get salvation for the non-existent thing. If that's in place, your spiritual practices themselves will be reinforcing the non-existent thing. How can they destroy the non-existent thing? Yeah? So with the hopes where you may get the sense that there's something, let's say, call it the ego, or something that's obscuring you from the truth, so you set out to destroy that by spiritual practices or to get some relief or some space from it. But what's actually happening, the spiritual practices are being claimed by the mental processes to reinforce the idea of being the non-existent thing. And therefore, how can those practices destroy it when their primary purpose is to reinforce it? And there's nothing to destroy. It's a non-existent. You're trying to get out of an imaginary place. That's why it's not working. You're trying to solve an imaginary problem, and when there's a solution applied to it, it makes it real. Yeah? By you wanting to escape somewhere, that's the giving it the reality of being a somewhere. This is the dilemma. It's like a little Chinese thumb torture. You can't get out of it if you're in. Yeah? So, there's another great master, Huang Po, great Zen master from China. He would say, you can't use, first of all, he would say, whatever can be perceived, yeah, like right now, cannot be perceived, what's perceiving. So basically, we're all off the game board completely. So whatever can be perceived, like I'm perceiving this, yes, and you're perceiving this, therefore this is not what's perceiving. Whatever can be perceived cannot be that which is perceiving. All right, that's the end of the meeting. Really, because if you let it sit, see what happens. Because there's a mental logic, while you're in it, makes sense, but it's totally fucking insane. It's like the idea, and so many books in a certain period of time, they were selling tons of books about how to get into the moment, yeah? And people would buy the book and they would read it, not usually the whole thing, and they'd get little experiences of being in the moment, but then they'd be mostly out of the moment, seemingly. So then they bought the second edition, How to Really Be in the Moment, and then How to Really, Really Be in the Moment. But it was all predicated on an insane idea that you could be out of a moment. The mental state implies, it takes it for granted that you have the ability to be out of a moment, when we've never been out of any moment we've been in, ever. So how you get the experience stabilized of being out of the moment or buying into the moment isn't by striving and finally getting into the moment. It's by the realization you can't be out of the moment. That's how it works. That's the new logic. That's raw mind, R-A-W mind, or unconditional mind. That's the logic of the unconditional mind. When I was young, we had Catholic school. They would go over the main three qualities of God, which was it's omnipresent, meaning it's everywhere. It's omniscient, it's all-knowing, and it's omnipotent, it's all-powerful. And even when I was a kid, I was wondering, why am I not running into it? I seem to be here. Why is it I'm running into people I don't want to see? Why can't it's so? What is the obscuring factor? Us, yeah. We're taking ourselves to be something that we're not, and then we start looking for what we think we are or what we want to get to from the false reference. The whole thing of non-duality is negating the idea of two-ness, of subject-object, of this or that, of me and you. It has nothing else. And if it dawns on you, it's a fact. There is not two. Yeah. So then you see, instead of looking for the truth, yeah, you see what's looking. Yeah. See. In a sense, it's seeing what you're not. Instead of looking for what you are from what you are not, you see what you're not from what you are. How could what's always available at all times escape us unless there was a misidentification, unless we are reality And we're taking ourselves, or we are that which is dreaming, and we're taking ourselves to be the dreamt. Yeah? And therefore, from the dreamt's point of view, it takes itself to be Paul, so Paul cannot be God. It cannot be what it's looking for, because it's been trying to get out of Paul its whole freaking life. So therefore, it makes up an idea, well, the truth will set me free. It will not set you free. The truth is going to enslave you to a long spiritual journey that's never going to arrive at the truth. That's spiritual addiction. It has no fear of you. It doesn't give a shit if you go on a 3-month retreat or a year retreat. It's safely entrenched in the fact that you're identified as what it's presenting. It's not sweating. You can meditate 14 hours a day. There's no alarm that goes off. Boredom does. Your ass hurts. But the head will go on and on and on and on and on. Because there's no threat. But turn your attention on it and say, who the hell is meditating? That goes somewhere. Yeah. So this is simply, there's a heist going on. There's a presupposing of a non-existent thing. Or there's the mental state, the 3-pronged mental processes, which is memory, thoughts, and perceptions. If you look at them, just look at them. See it. Don't. Thoughts. Where does the thought system value? Where does the value of the thought system lie? Does it lie now? Or does it lie in yesterday and tomorrow? Because it's thinking right now, yeah, but it's thinking about yesterday and tomorrow. It values yesterday and tomorrow more than now. And if you go into memories, how are you pictured in all the memories you have of yourself as a body? How can you be thought about but as a body? You can't be thought about as spirit. You can't have a memory of you as spirit 4 years ago. You wouldn't be able to take a selfie on it. There would be no form to capture. Yeah? The thought system thinks of you as a body. The memories picture you as a body. And the perceptions see bodies. Yeah? When there's a reliance on all of these mental processes, it's quite easy to fall into the assumption that you're a body. So what happens is, the mental process, it has a weird thing. Have you ever heard of the I am? They talk about the I am, which is the onness, we're all that, the I am. So the mental state has a huge impediment to try to override that I am. So what does it do? It presupposes, it goes, I was a body, I will be a body, therefore I am a body. So it manufactures an I am, and it puts itself before the I am, and then claims the I am verifies that I am. I'm the one who's conscious. You believe the body is conscious? Do you believe the eyes are seeing right now? The eyes aren't seeing, they facilitate seeing. The ears aren't hearing, they facilitate hearing. If I was dead and nothing had happened to the head, my eye wasn't going to see another thing for fucking eternity. But if you took it out of my head and put it in a live body, it would facilitate seeing. The eye isn't seeing. But what happens is the assumption, and it's reinforced all day by the narration in one's head, is that you have a lot to do with shit you have nothing to do with. It's constantly implying that you're the one who's conscious. And then suddenly, thinking that you're conscious, it also means because you're split, you're dualistic, that you can be unconscious. And I guarantee you, your head will point out that you're more unconscious most of the day than conscious most of the day. When all there is consciousness. So, it's like the first video we ever did was, it's an old story from Hinduism, yeah? And it's about a lion and a mother lion and a cub, yeah? And they're walking around, and the mother lion gets killed and the cub gets orphaned. And the cub doesn't really know what's going on, so it starts roaming around. and it sees this herd of sheep, and it starts moving towards them. Now the sheep see it as a lion, but it doesn't even really know what the hell it is. So it ingratiates itself with the sheep, and it starts living like a sheep. Yeah? It sits around listening to them bitch about who's going to be the next sweater. It gets its hair curled, and it's practicing barring all day. It's chewing cud. It's not that happy or satisfied. But let's say it meets another sheep, and they have sex, and the kids look a little weird, but what the hell? And he becomes a sheep elder and stuff. And then suddenly one day the herd's grazing, and then this old lion comes into the savannah and starts running towards the herd to eat something. He sees the other lion in the corner of his eye, and he thinks it's joining the hunt. Then it realizes it's running with the sheep. So he veers off and he grabs the other lion, and the other lion falls on its back and goes, "Please, Mr. Lion, don't eat me. I'm a humble sheep." And the old lion just goes like this, grabs him, walks him over to the water hole, sticks both their heads over the water. The young lion sees the reflections, and bam-o. The old lion goes raw, and it roars. It doesn't have to take 3 months roaring lessons. It doesn't have to, because it was never a sheep. It had always been the lion. It was just assuming it was a sheep. And it could be assumed to be such a sheep that if it got unhappy being a sheep, and it realizes some of its friends are unhappy about being a sheep, and they fall upon a story about lions, and they say, "Man, I'd like to kick some ass. I like to be the king of the jungle," or whatever. So then they find some lion pictures, they put it in nice frames, and they start having meetings about how to become like a lion. Yeah? And they, every morning they bow down, and they're practicing roaring, but it sounds like sheep and shit like that. But the whole point is, and they feel noble together. We're all in this. We're better than all the other sheep. We're looking, to become better. But in fact, if the sheep is a lion, searching for a lion as the sheep reinforces the sheep. If the lion has mistaken itself to be a sheep, and now when it hears the message, "Hey, you're a lion," when the message hits its little sheep ears, it gets translated into, "I can become like a lion." That's not the message. The message is, "You're a lion." The problem with all of us, or let's say in my own experience, the mental state is the quickest process that's happening here. You're never going to out-meditate yourself out of being, or the sense of being the meditator. The selfing is going to claim whatever you're doing to imply you're the doer of. Yeah? So here it goes. It hears the message. So the message, "You're a lion," comes, and you thinking you're hearing it, but the mental state catches it, and then neuters it, and turns it into you as a sheep maybe can become like a lion. That's not the message. The message is, so instead of saying, "I want to be a lion, I want to be a lion," let's say, "Are you a sheep?" Turn the attention correctly and look at, are you a sheep? If you're not a sheep, you may find out you're a lion. And how long will it take? No time at all. Because it isn't like, all right, I found out I'm not a sheep, and then you're in this void. No. You already are, yeah? So you find out what you're not, and then bam-o, it hits you what you are. And in fact, when it hits you what you are, you've always been that. You were never the sheep, no matter how much barring you were doing, or how much you believed, and how many sweaters you had become, and all this. You had never been a sheep. There was never a point that you ever was not a lion. That's the message. The message is, we're trying to become like a lion as a sheep while we're a lion. You're trying to become spiritual as a body while you're a spirit. You want the body to show the effects of spirituality, instead of realizing you're not the body, and you'll see everything's included in spirituality. and that the only possibility we have concerning what we are is to be it. You cannot study what you are because you are the studying of everything. Yeah? You cannot apply yourself to know yourself. You can only be it. You can't have an understanding of it. You can't know it. You can't experience it. You can only be it. And we are right now. We just don't think so, basically. It's the thinking that makes the impossible seem to be so. There's no other way this imaginary bridge could create a whole new other land on the other side, other than by thinking. So you see it. And how does the thinking do it? All right. Well, here, simple. Here's a bottle. Everyone sees the bottle. I'm going to change its intent. My bottle. So now the bottle, when recognized or noticed, there's an implying it's pointing to the noticer. Yeah? So here's thoughts. No. Thoughts, my thoughts. So each thought is being used to imply the thinker. Thoughts are happening, feelings are happening, actions are happening, but they're being claimed and used to imply the actor, the thinker, the feeler. That's not happening. That's a story. That's made up. That could be dropped and nothing would fucking change. They're still thinking, feeling, doing this and that, but you, as this event, would travel lighter. Because you would not take yourself so seriously. That's simple. So for me, it's more like the warning on a cigarette pack, where it says this could be dangerous for your physical health. I really believe every spiritual book should have this tattooed on the first page. Yeah, you are what you're looking for. It doesn't. St. Francis supposedly said it. You are what you're looking for. It didn't say you are what you're looking for, but there's 50 pages of requirements you have to meet to be what you're looking for. He said, what's looking is what you're looking for. Where? Exactly. What's looking right now. You can't get behind this to see it. You are it. What a great relief. Yeah? And that's the funniest thing. This, to me, has been an urban renewal project since I was about 6. Constant critiquing, finding fault, having to work on it. And suddenly, that whole project got just canceled. And it was the greatest day for the body. Because the body cannot bear being the center of the universe. It can't. It's like putting 5 tons on a half-ton pickup. It's way too much. And it cannot bear being thought about incessantly. It really can't. It farts. It burps. It gets, adult acne. Things happen. So, there's a great relief, I swear. I wish I could, So the first movement of this little heist is claiming, yeah? So something's happening all day, yeah? But it's being used to imply that there's someone that it's happening to. That's the difference, yeah? One is, just like when you were a kid, life was happening, and then as you grew, it turned into life's happening to me, which is an interpretation, basically, where most of us are living an interpretation. We listen to the narration in one's head, and the narration is talking about us. It's basically what's not happening all day. So a lot of people come to talks, and let's say it's on a Friday night, and then if someone's bummed out at that talk, it's never based on that Friday night. It's based on last week or next week. Yeah. And a lot of people, in a sense, are mostly engaged now in what's not happening. Yeah? And the only reason next week can have an effect now is when what's happening, which is us, is entertaining it. When when what we are, which is what's happening, entertains what's not happening, it can have an effect in what's happening. It's amazing. A dog can't ruin its day by thinking about next week. It's not worried, will I be at the beach next week fetching? It doesn't go there. We do. Yeah. And anything can happen in what's not happening. You can be destitute in what's not happening. You can have cancer in what's not happening. Right now in what's not happening, my girlfriend up north could be having a fucking whatever. Maybe she is actually, who knows. But the thing is this, so in what's not happening, anything can happen, but in what's happening, it doesn't have those qualities, but it has one quality what's not happening doesn't have, which is it's happening. You may not like it, but there's seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and touching going on. Next week, there is no seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching going on. You're not seeing next Friday. Next Friday isn't leaking into today. We beckon it forth. We are reality. As the Course, you ever hear the Course in Miracles? It's a beautiful statement in the Course. It says, you and I are the dreaming of the dreaming. Yeah. So the Course in Miracles presents this place as dreaming, just like at night when you're dreaming. It's basically believing we're in an awake dream. Yeah. So there's a dreaming. So you and I are the dreaming of the dreaming. We forget that we're dreaming. How the hell could that happen? Yeah. It can happen, but it can seem to happen. So it means it can appear to be true to you. It can be true or false to you. Yeah. So here. So, okay, I forget that I'm the dreaming. How? By becoming identified as the dreamt. Yeah? Now, suddenly, in this condition, everything I'm dreaming, which are thoughts, feelings, everything like this, have the ability to affect me now as the dreamt. It sounds like everyone's day. That's what's happening. The dreaming is seemingly forgetting that it's the dreaming by being identified as the dreamt. And in this condition, everything it's dreaming has the ability to affect the dreamt. So the thoughts being held as yours can own you. You own the thoughts through the my, they can ruin your day. You own the feelings, these are my feelings, it can ruin your freaking retreat. One action can, you'll be convicted in your little court for 40 freaking years because you're presented as a doer of that action. There's no forgiveness in the mental courts, ever. You're basically living out a sentence already. You deep down feel like you've done something or didn't do something, and you've been convicted for a long time. You're just hoping for probation or parole, and there's none going to be offered. See, I go do talks, and one time I went, of course I do talks, I'm doing one now. I went back to New York, I hadn't been there in a while, and a guy came in who knew me and says, hey, Paul, you're growing your hair, because my hair was longer. And I said, yeah, I'm growing my hair. I'm doing a really good job. And he was balding. I said, you're not doing such a good job. And I said, can I suggest, we have a hair growing group, and we get together, and we sit, and we grow our hair, and it seems to be working. Come on Saturday from 9 to 11. And I could go on, and I'm proud of my hair, but I didn't do anything about growing it. I just didn't cut it. But you're listening to a language that's constantly implying you have a lot to do with shit you have nothing to do with. You're not growing your hair. Do you believe like you're thinking? Is there a pre-feeling that you go into before a feeling happens? It seems like everything just rushes up and we get caught with our pants down. And then suddenly the mental state claps on the idea. You're the thinker of these thoughts. You're the doer of those actions. You're the feeler of those feelings. It's slavery. And we're the jailer, we're the warden, we're the prison. We're the thief that gets captured by the same thing as us as the policeman. We play all the roles. How could false evidence for people in recovery, there's an acronym for fear, false evidence appears real. How can false evidence appear real? It would have to appear real to what's real. Where would it get a sense of reality unless it was lent by reality? We're reality. We're believing false evidence appearing real, the constant narration of a life in time and as a body. We're believing that. Yeah? And then it seems to make it so. We're reality. Next week is not happening. It cannot produce any effect. But what's happening, obsessing over next week can produce an effect. We are reality right now. We are what we're looking for. And as Huang Po says, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. You can't use mind, big mind or awareness to seek awareness. You can't use light to seek light. Huang Po wasn't a sadist. When he looked at us, if he was here tonight, he looked at us and Mary and Joe and Luke. He didn't see Mary and Joe and Luke. He saw the Buddha. And he was trying to get through Mary, Joe, and Lou, that huge defense mechanism that will claim every freaking message and neuter it before it's like stillborn every day. It's hoping that he could get one direct message to the Buddha, and the Buddha hears, you can't use yourself to find yourself. The Buddha, how long would it take for the Buddha to get that message? No time fucking whatsoever. The problem is, the Steve and the Mary and the Jim are catching the message and neutering it. And then it turns it into, Steve, you can become like the Buddha and now use Buddhism. But the message is, you can't use the Buddha, aka Steve, to seek the Buddha. So if you're seeking the Buddha as Mary and Jim, it makes a lot of freaking sense. But what would happen if the rug was pulled out of you and someone came up to you and said, hey, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha, and you heard it as the Buddha? What would happen to your spiritual identity? What would happen to your spiritual story? It would end. You would be at that moment what you've been looking for, and it would be, every moment has always been that way. It will download as, it has always been this way. Nothing has ever happened to change this. It's like this sky. This is what mind is like. Tons of shit appear in the sky. Millions of clouds. Have any of them moved into the sky? Do you see this cloud you saw last week here? The one that looked like a dog? No. Everything's moving. You can have 365 days of 4th of July explosions. Do they rip the sky open? Do the pilots on the plane say, hey, tower, I ran into a big chunk of sky up here? No. Tons. When it rains, does the sky get wet? No. The sky allows everything to happen in it, yet it's not affected by any of it. That's what we're like. That's what mind is like. All of these surface effects are streaming, like water running over water. And you know what's the greatest beneficiary? Us as a body. It's the weirdest freaking thing. This for years now has traveled lighter on a stabilized level. It didn't mean everything got great. Everything's done what it's done. Cancers with people I knew, things like that. But I've been able to travel lighter with whatever life has in store for me. And after years of it, I reached a conclusion. What more would you want than that? Yeah? To be able to fit yourself around circumstances instead of trying to fit them around you. These aren't things that you can accomplish. They're effects of a change. Acceptance is an effect of a change. You can't accomplish acceptance. It's an expression that shows up when something has changed in mind. And what happens is acceptance comes in. And for the first time in your life, no matter how funky you are, you're okay. Mind-boggling. No more jumping through freaking hoops, or no more on the mental obstacle course, always falling into the hole that the little swimming hole that's deeper and deeper. None of that. It's all off. You're totally O-fucking-K. Yeah. So this is like a spiritual shoe store. You just wandered in here, you just put a couple of shoes on. Out. Hey, if they fit, you wear them. That's what happened with me. When someone said this to me, Paul, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. It was like a dog head, like, what? What? And then something hit, and basically the gig was up. Because it explained exactly what had been happening since I was 6 years old, or one of the greatest of all statements coming from recovery: self can't get out of self. I had been trying to get out of self as a self, and even in these meetings, people want to acquire the attributes of non-self as a self. They want to experience their own absence, but they want to be there. You're not getting this, ever. You're not getting it. You are it. Stop applying what worked to get a pair of pants, or to get a coffee, or to get a date. Stop applying that logic, because it doesn't work on the topic of what you are, because you're not something other than you. You can't find what you are. You can't experience what you are. You can experience what you're not. But you can experience what you are. You're that which is having all the experiences. You can't see what's seeing. You can't hear what's hearing. You can't feel what's feeling. You can't taste what's tasting. You can't touch what's touching. So now, as we seem as this moving through time, there's a timelessness there. You're the timelessness. You are what you've been looking for. As Jesus said, an incredible statement of negation. He said, you're in this world, but you're not of this world. Yeah? So you're in time, you're seemingly in body, you're in this, you're in that, but you're not of this. You're of no time, no body, no this. Yes? That will leak through. And it causes the ability to be able to entertain peace and know the word serenity and have an intimacy with relief. And you'll know the problem from the solution. And the freedom is prior to the bondage. It doesn't come after the bondage. It sees there was no one to be bound. The freedom is absolute. It's not conditional. It's not based on you being attentive or not attentive. It's prior to all that. It's the exact nature of what you are. It doesn't have to be manipulated or contrived or worked on or pinched or moved. It's that. Then you start, it's like the horse is in front of the cart. Things make sense. Yeah? And you don't waste any time looking for what can't be found. And then, actually, when I was into spirituality, this is why I was looking for spirituality. I was afraid of being this. This is where you end up. Total, ordinary dog shit awareness. Maybe not even with a loving gaze. Or a nice demeanor. Maybe. I don't know. If I knew this is how I would have kept looking. Because there'd be more of me looking for God than there's any of you being God. I could be going to Peru and painting my face and doing ayahuasca, writing blogs, having a lot of followers. Now it's like going to a thrift store. I forget what I did in an hour. There's no memories because there's no need for memories. If you're here, there's nothing to remember. You don't remember the truth. The truth is always available at all times. There's no need to remember. You're being it. Incessantly on, always available at all times, right where you are, and in whatever condition you think you're in. It's still there. Yeah? Your worst day, it didn't blink. Your best day, it didn't blink. What's seeing, saw everything on your worst day and sees everything on your best day. That which is seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, that consciousness, there's no volition involved in it. Do you choose to see what you see? If your head's this way and your eyes are open, you're going to see everything that's there. And does anyone go to seeing lessons? You sit there and try to look at old saints just so you can see better? You know, like this? No. Do you break out in any sweat? Does it, you know, I've been seeing like you're doing it. I've been seeing so much, I'm exhausted. No. Being doesn't exert any energy. It's not through thought and effort. Yeah? It's just being. Your inherent nature. How can you believe through that you're going to arrive at that which demonstrates no thought and effort through thought and effort? I mean, you're barking up the wrong tree. Any questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
It's gonna probably sound like I'm being a party pooper, but okay, like you're going to London, right? Or you're gonna go to London. Maybe you don't know that. But there's a schedule that says you are. And so, the moment that offer came about going to London or something, was there like an immediate, yeah. Or were there thoughts that were coming to go, well, this and well, that? You know what I mean? It's like today, a lot of the thoughts were coming. There was nothing in the way of any of it. It was just, that's that. But there are times when there's a decision to be made, and it'll seem like I'm weighing this. And it's like, are you saying one of them is just going to pop out?
No, I'm not saying anything really about that.
Okay.
I'm just saying whatever's happening can never break the boundary of here and now.
Okay.
So there's planning in the imaginary future and past, but here and now. You're not planning for the past, but the future. Yeah?
Yeah.
So just a sense that I used to do a story about this is like the spiritual drive or the addiction. So let's say I had a one-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment. I was pretty happy with it, and I was just having a cup of coffee Sunday morning, enjoying the space and the plants. And then I opened up this magazine, and they had a beautiful color layout of a couch. And then I realized I'm couchless. I have no couch in this place. And I started to feel lack, like, geez, I need a couch. And then my head got on that idea and says, I may meet a girl with that couch and conceive my first child on that couch. And then I'm thinking, and I start resenting all my friends who have couches. Why didn't they tell me the importance of the couch? So now I'm like, I got to get a couch. So I start working hard at it, and I'm saving up. I'm excited, and I'm talking to my friends. They don't seem that excited about it, but Are you going to come to my couch warming party? RSVP, no. So the day comes and they deliver it. So the here was fine until I saw this couch, and then that couch became a there that immediately invalidated the here I was in. So now I had to get to that there, and each here to that point was being invalidated because it wasn't that there. Yeah, see what the head does? It's amazing. So then, all right, so the day they bring the couch, I sweep the area and they bring it in, and I take the plastic off, I sit down, and it's great. But then I look around, I got to get a matching rug. So immediately, the there turns into a here. And then there's another there, yeah? It's a slavery. The biggest, if you want to get deep into it, the biggest aspect of the dreaming is time. The whole heist is this. There's the presupposing. If you hear the word supposing, means you're assuming something that you don't know that's true, right? You suppose I'm supposed to get there at 8, but you didn't look at the card or the invitation. You just suppose it, or assume it. Yep. But the presupposing is more interesting. So there's the mental state is supposing that you're a doer and a thinker and a haver, right? But the mental state, first there's the conscious contact, being alive, and then the mental process takes about 7 seconds to produce the sense of Paul, a self. How it produces the sense of self is through selfing. I call it a verb, right? So the mental state is selfing. And when what we are is listening to the selfing, we produce the sense of self. So, but this is what happens. People, there's selfing. The selfing implies that there's a self. If the mind buys it, then suddenly the self is presupposed to be the one that's selfing. You see? The selfing, it's a verb that produces the sense of self. When it's produced, the sense of self is presupposed and now says, I'm the one who's been selfing all day. You see? That's what's happening every second. So that which comes after is implied to be before. So what was once before was life is happening. What was after was life's happening to me. Yeah? Suddenly the life's happening to me has been placed before, and so it neuters life's happening, and now it's life's happening to me as the prior, which it's not the prior. It's presupposed to be. It's assumed to be before, but it isn't. Life is still happening. It has never freaking changed. So that which comes after implies to be before. This guy in LA, he called the selfie. He says, all right, so Paul, let's say Paul is Pauling. So Paul is selfing, okay? How much? Is he selfing 50% of the day, 20% of the day, 80% of the day? I said, no, you're missing it. There is no Paul. There's just selfing. And then the selfing produces a sense of Paul, and you just demonstrated my whole take because you immediately said, how much is Paul selfing? When selfing produced the sense of Paul, you're a product. You're being manufactured. You're being reinforced. You're being assumed. You're being insinuated. You're being implied all day. And your thought system is reinforcing it all day. You think as if you're a doer. You believe the thoughts are yours. You believe somehow you're doing them or they're about you. You believe every feeling that happens is your feeling. You believe, especially when an action happens through this body, that you are definitely the doer. This is the bondage of self. It's manufactured. Has it changed anything? No. It's just convincing or seemingly convincing what we are to take itself to be something it's not. And then the double whammy is when it starts looking for itself from the false reference. That's called spirituality here. It's a business. You're going to be on it for 70 years, 80 years, lifetime. If you found what you were looking for, it will tell you it's always been this way. So none of this ever happened. None of this this is all happening, but it never took the place of what is. Why not allow what is to come through you instead of you looking to get to it? Allow it to come through you. You're letting the mental state come through you, and you're getting back an interpretation. Now, to me, it's the guy that's looking into the pond all day, Narcissus. The mental state is addicted to the idea of being a self. It's the original addiction is the mental state's addiction to the idea of being a self. That's why all the other addictions occur. And that's why they never bring relief. Because you're trying to get out of self as a self. I did a lot of cocaine, and I never reached a point where I said, "Thank you, street cocaine." I'm satiated and give all my cocaine away and never thought of it again. No addiction ever culminates to an end. It goes on and on and on because you're trying to get out of something as the something you want to get out of. It's a simple little that you can't, it's like a glitch or a little scratch before all the songs in the album, of every album. See? So if you don't see the heist, you'll be looking from it. Yeah. So yes.
How did you experience?
Trying to speak loud, eh?
Okay.
How did you experience letting go of the letting go? Personally, like what was your experience?
Well, it had nothing to do with the experience. It showed itself in other experiences later, in different areas, yeah? But see, there's not a letting go of the letting go. There's a realization there's no one that can hold on. You see? You bypass the letting go. There's a realization there's no one to be holding on. Once you go to the letting go, the holding on is inevitably like a shadow. So you're going to feel like you held on again. So there's letting go, holding on, letting go. You got to see there's no holding on. That stops the slinky. Yeah?
But I guess my question is, like, we all hear this, and well, at this I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, I hear it, like,
Yeah.
it resonates. But then,
Don't go to the but then. Just stay with that. You've been served the spiritual subpoena. You have. You're going to go to the court of light, not the other courts of the mental state. And everything will be annulled there. All your transgressions will be relieved. Yeah? Don't see, the but is the beginning of the world at these talks. Everyone goes, oh, I love the feeling here, but what about Tuesday? Yeah. Or what about if I have 3 kids? And it's always, see, the mental state pledges allegiance to its own system. It wants this thing to be played out in time because it can get a huge reflection. It's like Narcissus in the pond.
but I guess that's my question. How do you remove the but?
You don't remove the but. You're now stationed before the but. Not after the but trying to get before it, but before. And then there is no but. You're not, I don't want to feel, I don't feel anything right now, first of all. I don't get a fucking thing out of this. That's the most amazing event of it. It's totally empty, completely. I learned a long time ago, because I was doing a lot of talks in AA. If you don't mind, I'll share this thing. I used to do this workshop on Monday night for like 16 years if I was in the country in San Francisco. That's a lot of Monday nights, yeah? And, you know, some of those nights my girlfriend just broke up with me 5 minutes before. Some of those nights I was waiting to hear if I had AIDS, which back then it took 3 weeks. Some of those times I had terrible flu or sinus infection, no money. But every time I walked in there, and I was willing to sit down and be a hose, that power came through. So I learned, and the amazing thing is, all the pressing issues, right up to the moment I sat down, were totally bam-o gone for that hour and a half. And over time I realized, how could have they been real to disappear so quickly? So as soon as my attention and interest was drawn somewhere else, all that seemed to be so real and pressing was totally gone. What is that but dreaming? So I did this. So the thing is, this is like a download. This action figure's reluctant to do this, I swear to God. I mean, this is thousands of, see, the only reason why I've been able to do all these meetings is I never showed up, really. But this action figure's got a grudge now. It's like getting, all right, thousands of fucking meetings. You know what I mean? But I believe, I have total faith in mind. I know you know. I know it completely. Yeah? I don't think you need an intensive. Isn't one day in Ensenada intense enough? What do I want to pay to go on an intensive? You're paying rent to have one here. You know, I believe it doesn't take time. The solution is of a timeless quality, yeah? You can't arrive there because you've never left. See, this is why we're missing it, because it's not coming and going. It's just like gravity. I bet you no one in Encinitas at any cafe today were bitching about the effects of gravity. They were bitching about the effects of gravity, but they were saying it was the steep hill or the stairs, yes? And then there could be a professor of gravity that could come here and give an incredible talk about gravity, and now you would leave thinking you know gravity, but all you really need to do is go into an anti-gravity chamber, and once the influence of gravity was relieved, you would know it by its fucking absence. This is what the problem and solution is. You know the problem from the solution, and from the solution is an activity that the solution is entertaining. We're dreaming, yeah. See, we want to get off the roller coaster, but you're the roller coaster. The ride can't get off of the ride. This is the seat in the roller coaster. It's not you. You're not the passenger. You're the ride. You ever see a wheel, those metal wheels? They call them hamster wheels. But without the hamster, it's just a piece of metal. Without us, none of this is happening. Nothing is being imposed upon you. You're not in something else's dream. You're the dreaming. See, this is the dilemma, though. Because then, if the sheep hears that it's the dreaming, if the dreamt hears that it's the dreaming, then it goes, I'm going to dream 70 Cadillacs, new joints, lots of women, tons of money. No. The message that you're the dreaming, see, this message, I'm not talking to you about it. I'm talking to it about you. I'm throwing the message to the Buddha and talking to the Buddha about you. To talk to you about the Buddha means doesn't go anywhere. I'm throwing it to the Buddha, yeah, and then he's going to look at you and go, woo, yeah. If I talk to you about the Buddha, it goes nowhere. But if I talk to the Buddha about you, it goes somewhere. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think you got it or you like it or dislike it. You've been served, like it or not. And I've seen it. I've seen this subpoena served thousands of times. See what happens, man. And if, let's say, if you have a $30,000 spiritual budget for a year, and then you cut it down to about $3,000, why don't you send me 10% of the savings? P.O. Box in Hawaii. I've saved you a lot of time and money, so throw some at me. That's my retreat. It's called Retreat from Paul. I promise you that I won't see you. Yeah. And I'll send you DVDs of testimonials from ex-girlfriends saying how they feel such a presence by my absence. So, and I guarantee if you take the first weekend, I promise I won't go where you're gonna be, and I bet you'll feel really good at the end of the weekend. And if you do, sign up for a month, and and I guarantee you'll feel an incredible presence by my absence in your life. That's the retreat from Paul. I had a lady call me. She spent $1 million. $1 million. She'd stay up all night looking at YouTube videos. 14, 15 hours. Fucking insane. So I must have been one of the last people on the block. She had spent tons of money with all these people. She calls me up. I said, it's going to take less than 2 sessions. And I never heard from her. One session, I never heard from her. I'm hoping it worked. Yeah. I mean, she was the epitome of it. And I truly believe, this is off the thing, I believe they should have an authorized committee that when you want to go on another retreat, you had to send your application to them. And if they see you've been on 30 retreats, they go, no, like the soup Nazi, no retreat for you. Because the retreat has now been claimed, and it's being used to reinforce that which you're trying to get out of through the retreat. Don't exempt yourself from the examples. See if the shoe fits. When I heard these things, they explained most of my behavior since 6 years old. I had been trying to get out of self as a self. I was using the Buddha to seek the Buddha. They fit completely. That's the point of this message. If it resonates, wear it. There'll be more downloads to follow. And I guarantee you, there'll be relief expressed as the action figure. Not relief produced by what's happening outside, but expressed from where you're at. You will be what you're looking for, literally. Wherever you are, there's value because you're there. I'm getting too juiced out. Because I'm having to shout. If I had a stick, I'd hit you, all of you. I hit myself first. All right, so please donate if you can. You know, I have a Prius, but it still costs me money to drive down here. Talk about thinking. There was no thought deciding to come here. It was insane. Becoming. I just did a long tour and I'm going to Europe, and I decided to drive down to Julie and Encinitas. That has there was no thought involved. You just show up to life, see what happens. Yeah. You'll be surprised. We did a thing in recovery where I lived. In your first year, you would write down, like when you first entered, what you hoped for to happen in 1 year of sobriety. And then you would read it after a year if you stayed sober with your sponsor, and it was amazing how you shortchanged yourself. Life gave you so much fucking more that you can't even imagine. The mental state is a squelcher of possibility. It doesn't let you entertain the possibility that you're okay. It lets you entertain you will be okay, or you were once okay. It's fucking slavery. So now you're trying to be okay because you believe you're not okay. And then the okayness is the slavery. You're trying to be something that's a natural state if you just got fucking out of the way. All right, well, that's it, eh? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right,
I put a
there's
cookie jar.
shirts and books over there.
Oh yeah,
too.
let me open that up.
You're not going to get anything out of the talk, but buy a shirt.
I'll put he's got a suitcase with